Hello brothers, welcome back to the AniMonolith light novel summary series. To set the stage for today's episode, while Rimuru was busy working on freeing Veldora, another front was opening up in Dworgen, the battle against Gladim and his magic beast core. Gladim, known as the second strongest figure in the Empire, was none other than the half-brother of Beast King Carrion. Unlike Carrion, the proud but somewhat naive Golden Lion, Gladim was a ruthless and tyrannical white tiger. His cruelty led to him being rejected as Urizania's successor. Enraged, he murdered the former king, only to be cast out by Carrion and the Beast Katirs. From there, Gladim wandered the world, carving his own bloody path. Along the way, he gathered three formidable subordinates: Baraga, the Azure Dragon Knight, Guzarin, the Black Tortoise Priestess, and Nazim, a Vermilion Bird. He was a mutant of the Harpy tribe that Gladim had met while wandering near the winged nation Fulbrotia. Her wings were gray with purple spots, and there were three pairs. In return for her loss of reproductive ability, she possessed outstanding fighting power. Gladim took a liking to her beauty, which was similar to Frey's, and brought her into his group, whose strength was said to rival that of a demon lord seed. Together, they became the fearsome magic beast core. 3 centuries earlier, after Veldora's sealing, Gladim had led an invasion into the Empire, but was crushed. Yet, instead of being executed, he bent the knee to Rudra, biding his time. Everyone, even Velgrind, knew his ambitions, to one day overthrow the Marshal and seize the throne for himself. But so long as he remained useful, they allowed him to stay. When Velgrind opened a spatial gate and sent the magic beast core to Dworgen, Gladim was ecstatic. In his twisted mind, this was the perfect chance, both to awaken as a demon lord and to carve his name into history. With Gazelle defeated by Kondo and the Dwarven army in chaos, Gladim was thrilled. He could smell blood, opportunity, and the path to his long-dreamed conquest. But there was a bitter truth. Gladim had already realized that the Marshal he so desperately wanted to surpass was in fact none other than Velgrind, the Scorched Dragon herself. Against her, he stood no chance. Yet that knowledge only fueled his delusion. If he could not defeat her now, then perhaps in the future, after awakening, he might. That thought alone was enough to keep his ambitions burning. Now, brimming with arrogance and battle lust, Gladim and his 3 generals descended into Dworgen. The battlefield had become their hunting ground, and for Gladim, this was more than just war. It was the opening act of the future he believed was waiting for him. Then, when Gladim was about to rush to take Gazelle's head, someone blocked his path: Gabiru. The Dragonaut's sudden reappearance made Gladim bristle with irritation. He had already assigned suitable opponents for each of his generals, so why was this lizard interfering? Glancing back at his subordinates, Gladim was stunned. Aside from Nazim, who was still locked in an even battle against Suka, the other 2 had already fallen. Baraga, who had the power of an Imperial Guard, had been killed outright by Gabiru. Guzarin, who had headed for the Demon Colossus with high spirits, was in tears after her golem had been crushed. For the first time, Gladim realized the enemies before him were no mere rabble. They were a true threat. He prepared to deal with Gabiru personally, but just then, a communication spell reached him. It was Zamud, his voice trembling with urgency. Through the magical link, Gladim could feel the man's panic. Zamud reported that Demon Lord Rimuru had opened a massive summoning gate and unleashed an entire army of demons onto the battlefield. What's more, Rimuru had evolved his followers into demon lords right in the middle of the fight. Now, nearly 100 Archdemon-class commanders were rampaging through the skies, tearing apart the Imperial Air Corps. The news left Gladim momentarily speechless. 100 archdemons and even demon lord evolutions happening mid-battle? Such monsters were not threats to be taken lightly. As much as he wanted to crush Gabiru with his own hands, the situation was escalating beyond control. Zamud begged for reinforcements, warning that even Velgrind and the Imperial Guard were being overwhelmed by Rimuru's army executives. Diablo, Shion, Benamaru, Gobta, names whispered in fear. And now even Gabiru, who wasn't counted among Rimuru's top 4, was strong enough to bring down Baraga in an instant. The truth hit Gladim like a hammer. If Rimuru's lesser commander was this powerful, how terrifying would the true 4 heavenly kings be? Worse yet, Rimuru had somehow evolved his demons into archdemon-class beings, en masse. Hundreds of calamity-level threats had been unleashed upon the battlefield. Grinding his teeth, Gladim admitted he had gravely underestimated his opponent. The Empire's upper brass might survive, but his soldiers would be annihilated. Regret was pointless now. All that remained was to play his last card, the forbidden weapon of the magic beast core. The Magic Beast Corps under Gladim were no ordinary soldiers. Each warrior was bonded with a tamed magic beast of A rank or higher, forming a fearsome unit where man and monster fought as one. The humans themselves had been artificially enhanced, infused with the blood of ancient champions, while the beasts had their intelligence rewritten to optimize combat. Some were captured and domesticated, while others were bred artificially, each embedded with military-grade abilities. This fusion of sorcery and science had produced an army both powerful and ruthless. But Gladim's ambition went even further. In secret, he had developed a forbidden drug known as the Beast, a horrifying experiment that fully fused man and monster at the cost of their humanity. The results were grim. 40% of test subjects died instantly. 30% went berserk and lost control, and 20% were trapped forever in beast form. Only 10% managed to stabilize at all, and of those, barely 1% reached perfect fusion. These rare survivors became known as Chimera Knights, warriors strong enough to rival even a demon lord. Now, faced with the desperate situation on the battlefield, Gladim chose to unleash this forbidden power. Though it meant sacrificing numbers, the quality of his soldiers would skyrocket. At his command, the drug was administered, transforming select warriors into Chimera Knights. One of them was Baraga, the Azure Dragon. Though Gabil had previously crushed his chest with a clean strike, Baraga rose again, his wound sealing through the fusion with his beast. This was the terrifying trait of a Chimera Knight. They would not die unless both man and beast were destroyed together. Baraga's partner was a dragon-type chimera, and upon activating the beast, he merged with it. His body retained its humanoid form, but shimmering dragon scales spread across his flesh, and his aura surged with overwhelming force. "Looks like this lizard is tougher than we thought," Gladim growled. Unlike Kondo, he felt no need to cling to the pride of a warrior. In this situation, there was no shame in 2-on-1 combat. "Baraga, let's take him together." "With pleasure," Baraga replied, his voice tinged with draconic resonance. The two advanced on Gabil, who stood defiant despite the odds. "Heh, even if you come at me together, I'll still crush you both," he roared, steeling himself for the disadvantageous battle ahead. At the same time, on the other side of the battlefield, another of Gladim's generals revealed her true form. Black Tortoise Gazarin had fully assimilated with her golem Lorelei, turning her entire body into living magisteel. Her skin was no longer flesh, but a mirror-like metallic surface, radiating an aura that Gadra instantly recognized as dangerous. Stronger even than Demon Lord Clayman, and on par with some of the Empire's saints. Before Gadra could react, Gazarin charged. The impact was like being hit by a 10-ton truck at full speed. The demon colossus, over 30 tons of armored mass, was knocked clean off its feet. Gadra countered immediately, unleashing Purple Thunder, then his most powerful weapon, the Demonic Buster. But neither had any effect. With her magisteel body vibrating at high frequencies, Gazarin simply reflected his magic back. For a sorcerer like Gadra, this was the worst possible opponent. Still, he refused to falter. Since coming to Tempest, Gadra had grown attached to the nation. Everything was wonderful, and there were many things for a curious person like Gadra to explore and research. Perhaps Lord Rimuru did not completely trust him, but this time he had let him go to battle, so Gadra was determined not to betray that trust. He had overcome many difficulties to get this opportunity, one of which was that the Lord's subordinates did not accept him, especially the trio of primordial demons. One of them rejected him as if he were a fool. Another one almost tricked him into becoming a test subject. And the other one, for some reason, was more interested in swordplay than magic, and had invited him to train. Only Diablo was interested in Gadra when he praised Rimuru's magic. So that demon, Diablo, and Gadra had made a pact. If Gadra could find a way to gain Diablo's approval, he would be taken in as one of his dependents. Therefore, Gadra could not die in a place like this. Even when Gazarin's steel tentacles shredded the demon colossus's limbs and pierced his body, leaving him bleeding and broken, Gadra's resolve only hardened. When Gazarin demanded his surrender, mocking him as an old fool clinging to obsolete magic, Gadra roared back. His pride as a mage and his love of magic itself would not allow him to yield. Instead, he invoked his final trump card, Sacrifice, a forbidden spell that burned his own life as fuel. If he was going down, he would take his enemy with him. In the next instant, a blinding flash engulfed the battlefield. Gazarin's taunting voice was swallowed by the flames of Gadra's self-destruction. As the light faded, only silence remained, and in the scorched earth where the clash had ended, a small flower quietly bloomed. And that's where today's video ends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next AniMonolith recap.